Welcome, everybody, back to Real Takes. My name is Riley Granson.
My name is Max Medlin. This is the third time we recorded this intro today.
Yeah, we've had some technical difficulties, that's for sure. But that's okay. We probably could have just left it in, but it would probably just sound a lot like Bill O'Reilly's Access Hollywood video, just us screaming at technology. But this is a podcast for all you movie lovers out there. This is our fifth episode, I believe.
Fifth or sixth, I think.
Yeah, and just our normal show that we're doing. We do occasionally, or will occasionally, do some top 5 shows. We had a lot of fun doing one of those. But this is just kind of a short, little simple show about films. We're talking a little bit about what's coming out this weekend, and some other things related to movies. We got a lot to get to today. We're a little bit delayed and crunched for time because someone decided that he was going to tell me he had to work in like an hour. So this one might be a little bit shorter than the other ones. But Max, how's things going up in your neck of the woods there?
I'll just make it short and sweet. Everything is good here. Got a nice hike in last week up in the wilderness. Did some meditation there, and everything's good out here. Just wildfires everywhere, but
yeah,
what can you do?
Yeah, man, the Canada stuff is coming down into our area here, but it's not hot or humid anymore. It's nice and cool out. I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now, which is something I haven't done in probably 2-3 weeks.
It was in the hundreds here for a couple weeks, and then it's down to 70s now. Yeah, we get all the wildfire from California and Wyoming also blowing around here, so it's hazy and disgusting. But it's better than a fire in Montana, which happened last year. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, thoughts always out to those people suffering through those things for sure. It's a tough situation to be in. I've seen some pictures and things like that, and it can't be fun. And some of the firefighters and people that have died, so that's a tough situation for all. But
yeah, we actually we had an interesting incident the other day, just quick at work. One of the trains went north, and we got a report of a bunch of fires. Well, apparently, the winds had blown down a bunch of power lines. The train actually ran over the power lines, and there was a large fire just north of Laurel here. And it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds coming south right at us, so it was a little concerning. But it's a pretty big blaze. I think they lost like 9 trailer homes or something, but no actual houses or anything. So it was disaster averted. But yeah, I got a little hairy here for a second. It's pretty close to home.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, Max, usually we like to BS a little bit. If you've listened to our other previous episodes, I went on a rant about drive-through etiquette one time and all that kind of stuff. But we got a lot of stuff to get to today, and not a lot of time to do it. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Max, let's talk a little bit about the stuff that's coming out this weekend, and something that was kind of surprising to the both of us because we talked shit about this movie last weekend, or last show. We talked some shit about Alpha, about how we thought it was going to be terrible, and again, to clarify, neither of us have seen the film. I have some time, if I have some time over the next week or so, I'll probably try to get in there and check it out. But Alpha right now, opening this weekend, sitting with an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the shocking part, is we didn't know that people were going to like it. But Alpha is coming out this week. That's one of the films. It stars Cody Smith-McPhee. He plays I'm just kind of pulling this super professional, just pulling it up as we're talking. He plays a young man who is kind of out in the wilderness and has this dog that he's part of the Cro-Magnon tribe. So this takes place in the Ice Age, and he's basically trying to domesticate a wolf. It's directed by Albert Hughes. I'm hearing good things about the way the movie is shot. I heard it's beautiful. So one review that I read even said that it was shot like a National Geographic special. So Max, are you excited for this film? Are you going to go check this one out?
I mean, I don't know that I'm excited for it, but I'm surprised it's doing well. I figured there's not a lot of movies about that time frame that are successful, like the animated movies notwithstanding. But I've said all along it's an interesting premise, trying to domesticate wolves and how dogs kind of came to be man's best friend, and they're playing that angle up really hard. But it sounds like it's visually stunning from what I'm reading, and it sounds like it's a pretty good movie. So I'm excited. I'll definitely go check it out. It just kind of surprised me, I guess.
Yeah, Cody Smith-McPhee was in a film called Slow West, which is a really cool Western. Slow West was Michael Fassbender. He's great in that. So I'm hearing good things about his performance in that as well. I think he's also one of the X-Men. Maybe he's one of the younger X-Men in X-Men Apocalypse. I want to say like Nightcrawler or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I'm not super familiar with him.
Yeah, don't remember that film probably because it's not very good. So yeah, Alpha opening in theaters this weekend. Another film garnering some rave reviews opening this weekend is Crazy Rich Asians. This is directed by John M. Chu. And it stars Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Awkwafina, who was actually really great in Ocean's 8. Michelle Yeoh is also in this. So a lot of recognizable names. Ken Jeong, one that I actually would like to go check out and see, but again, haven't had a chance to really get to the theater this weekend. Max, what do you think about Crazy Rich Asians?
It looks good. I honestly, to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I'm getting from it is that the acting is very good, and it's got a good story. I really have not seen a lot about this movie. I don't even think I've seen a trailer for this movie. It's kind of snuck under the radar for me, but definitely looks good, though.
I had heard about it for a while and seen a poster, and I had seen, on various movie sites talking about it coming out soon. I actually haven't seen a trailer either. Mm-hmm. But I would like to check it out. It's a great step forward, as we've talked about. It's been such a huge topic in this industry over the last 12 months or so is diversity and really representation in film. So I think it's from all accounts, at least the eye test would say that it's a great step forward for representation on screen, and I think that's definitely an exciting thing to deal with when it comes to this movie. So and it sounds like it's a great movie, so that's even better. It's Wonder Woman. Obviously, we had Black Panther earlier this year, which made $1 gazillion, which is a good step forward for representation on film too. So I know it's a conversation that a lot of people don't like to have, but I do think it is important, representation on film. There's been too many films being whitewashed, like great Egyptian actor Christian Bale from Exodus, Gods and Kings. I don't know what, like Gods of Egypt came out a couple years ago. I don't know what Hollywood's doing, but I'm glad to see that these films are finally finding a wide audience and hopefully making some money. I didn't know what it was tracking at or anything for the weekend, but we're recording this on a Saturday, so it's been out since Wednesday. Crazy Rich Asians came out this past Wednesday.
I gotta say one I am excited about. We did kind of talk about it a little bit last week, I think, but Blaze opened yesterday.
Yep.
And it's got very, very good reviews. Directed and acted by Ethan Hawke with Sybil Rosen. Also, not acted, directed and written by Ethan Hawke with Sybil Rosen. It talks about the guy that basically was the inspiration for Merle Haggard. Blaze Foley inspired Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson. Kind of talks about his troubled past and his untimely demise and that kind of stuff. And it looks like a very well acted, written movie. I've slowly but surely become a big Ethan Hawke fan, and I'm really excited to see this.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke's a guy who I think would lend himself well to a director's chair. I think he's an interesting actor. I think a lot of the things he wrote, a lot of Max, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're very popular. The Before trilogy, the series of Richard Linklater films, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, I can't remember is it Sunrise? Before Sunrise, I think is what it's called. But those films are excellent, and Ethan Hawke is excellent in them, and he helped Richard Linklater write those films. So those are really well told stories, and Ethan Hawke, to me, seems like a guy who is destined to be a great director and make good films. So. And he's a good actor, too, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. That opened in limited release over the past weekend, so hopefully it will trickle out to where you're at. I'm sure all you spoiled people out in L.A. and New York get to see it this weekend, but unfortunately for us here in the Midwest, we have to wait probably 2-3 weeks, unfortunately.
Right.
Was it even a theatrical release, or is this a VOD
I believe,
thing?
No, it's a theatrical release.
Okay. Yeah, it's getting great reviews. Lots of people like it. So a couple other things before we get into the one that we're, for lack of a better word, kind of theming our show around this weekend. A film, The Wife, opening in limited release this weekend. Pulling up some information about that right now. Oh, Glenn Close. Yeah, that's who it was. I just couldn't think of her name. Glenn Close, Jonathan Pryce, a couple of really great actors in this film. I don't know much about it. It's got good reviews. I'm sure it played some film festivals earlier this year, but... so that's opening. The one thing that we're going to... neither of us have seen this film yet either. But we're going to be kind of talking a little bit about Mark Wahlberg here today. And Mile 22, a new action film starring Mark Wahlberg.
No care to see it
this weekend. It's directed by Peter Berg, which I didn't realize. I was very surprised that a Peter Berg, Mark Wahlberg action thriller was getting kind of a dumped August release date.
Wahlberg's kind of fallen into that trap that a lot of people. I mean, you can only play the hero in this big patriotic event so many times before it's like, all right, dude, do something else. It's like the Rocket Rampage, Skyscraper, all this stuff. It's like people get burnt out. All right, Wahlberg, we get it. You want to be a patriotic hero, rah rah rah. Okay, do something else. Mix it up. Like you can't keep going back to the well that many times and expect people to continue to want to see that kind of stuff.
The thing I think was so surprising for me was that Wahlberg and Berg's collaborations before have been great, and we'll get into those in a minute, I'm sure, with our we're going to do a little top 5 Mark Wahlberg list, because everybody likes lists. So I was just surprised that this movie was just kind of getting dumped in August, because it seems like it should have had a bigger release. Peter Berg is directing a film called Wonderland with Mark Wahlberg that's coming out I want to say it was next year. It was at least in pre-production. So I don't know if this was one that just the studio just didn't really have a lot of faith in and thought, we'll just dump it in August or whatever. And it kind of just came and went almost. I mean, you didn't hear, there wasn't much promotion for it. There wasn't a lot that I saw. I never saw a trailer for it, in theaters. But then again, I haven't been to the movies in a while, unfortunately. But man, I don't know. Like, it's just a weird thing that it just kind of dropped into theaters without much fanfare and from 2 big names. Peter Berg's a big name.
Oh, so. Absolutely. A couple movies we talked about have done terribly at the box office. Little Mermaid, terrible. Billionaires Boys Club, terrible.
Well, okay. Before you go any further with Billionaires Boys Club, Billionaire Boys Club opened in 10 theaters, and it was an exclusive VOD release. So I think what you're seeing here, Max, is you're pulling up box office numbers for movies that really didn't get a super wide release.
Well,
these are movies that
just matters how many critics see it. The critics are ripping it apart.
I see what you're saying. So you're talking about reviews. You're not talking about box office.
No, just critical reviews. Yeah.
Okay, you said box office.
I don't know.
I was confused.
That. Okay, fine.
We'll listen back to the tape.
Anyway, something quick that I'm excited for. That's not. It's not a movie. It's a documentary, but. Hopefully, everybody on here has seen the documentary, The Cove, about the Japanese whaling industry. If you haven't, I recommend you see it. It's very powerful. But there is a follow-up that's coming out, just released, limited theaters yesterday. It is called A Whale of a Tale, and kind of is more backstory to the Cove and kind of what happened after the Cove came out and how that whole country was affected. It's a pretty complex story behind the debate, and they've got local fishermen, activists, journalists, students, and it kind of shows the East-West divide of whether they should be whaling, the legacy of whaling, and that kind of thing. So it's a documentary, but something that if you've seen The Cove, which again I recommend, definitely go take a look. I'm sure it'll come out on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that. Make sure to take a look. And as long as I guess I slipped up and said the top box office, it pains me to say this, but top box office this week is The Meg, and it's not even close. It's 25 million higher than the next highest grossing movie, which is Mission Impossible at 19.4 million. The Meg's coming in at 45.5 million. Holy shit!
It doubled studio expectations, which I find fascinating. So people went out and saw this movie, man. I mean, whether
studio expectations $5.
And it was 20 million. So, but just a real quick, kind of getting back to theatrical releases. Max mentioned The Little Mermaid, which is a movie I didn't know about until he brought it up. Was it last week? Last week's show he brought that up, I think, or 2 weeks ago maybe. But that was released on 82 screens over the weekend. So, and then Blaze was released on 3 screens. Out of IFC, and then of course Billionaire Boys Club was on 10, but also premiered on VOD. And then Ethan Hawke was in another film over the weekend from Roadside Attractions called Juliet Naked, in 4 screens. That film came out. So I don't know what the box office is tracking to look like this weekend. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Crazy Rich Asians was number 1 this weekend.
I think that
I don't see the Meg.
People are going to get out and see Alpha, I'm sure, and
Blaze. I don't see the Meg doing the numbers. I mean, obviously, it's not going to do 40 million again. But I think the Meg's going to have a big drop off because I think the people who went and saw that movie saw it. I don't think word of mouth is going to help that film because it seems kind of like a mixed reaction from. Although it has a pretty decent cinema score, so that's always impressive.
I think the Meg was just a one-trick pony, like you said. People that wanted to see it went and saw it.
Right now, Box Office Mojo has Crazy Rich Asians tracking for a $25 million opening over the weekend, and then the Meg in second place with $20 million. So actually has Alpha at just $6 million, but I don't know how much Alpha could have cost to make. I'm guessing it didn't cost that much to make.
Oh, I would think Alpha cost a lot. It was meant to be shown in 3D, so I'm sure it was expensive to make. Let me see what I can dig up.
I don't feel like it's probably $100 million movie. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's probably closer to because I think you can either blue screen or green screen a lot of those, and I don't know the whole the minutia of that, but in some of the trailers and marketing I've seen. It looks like the wolf looks too CGI for me. Like it just looks like it's so fake.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I don't know. That's just me.
Looks like the budget. Let's see, where was it?
I couldn't pull up one on Box Office Mojo.
Between 55 and 80 million.
Okay, so that's probably not recoupable. They probably aren't going to make much money on that if it's only going to make $6 million. It might do well overseas, but who knows?
It's made $3.4 million so far.
Yep, and it's tracking for a $6 million opening.
Damn. Which
is not good.
That's a bomb. Well, that's what sucks because you get movies that are reviewed well and are good movies, and they don't make any money. So people aren't going to take that risk again.
That is for sure. So why don't we get into our lists here? So we each compiled a list of our favorite Mark Wahlberg movies. Unless you had anything else to add about new releases.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we did a show about a couple months ago where we did top 5 comedies, action, biopic, and animated films. So you guys haven't listened to that, you should definitely go check that out. It's a long listen, but I think it's a good listen. We go in depth about some films maybe you've seen, maybe you've never seen, maybe bring up some things about movies that you didn't know or didn't think about before. So, but this week we're gonna do a little segment here. We're not going to spend a whole ton of time on this, but we each have our own top 5 Mark Wahlberg movies. And I would imagine, Max, you'd want to do this kind of like we did the other ones where we go 5 through 2, give our honorables.
Yeah,
and then go each give our number 1.
I think so. I think quick we should just give a shout out to our new viewers. We did a little promoting of the podcast on Facebook, so I think we got 10 or 20 new people listening. So if you are a new listener, welcome. Thanks for coming. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. We've got our total listeners up to 5 now, so really coming in hot and heavy. But thanks for being here. Let us know if there's anything we can do better.
Almost doubled. And with that, go ahead and drop us an email, realtakesinbox@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on our YouTube page. Facebook page is facebook.com/realtakes. Let us know any myriad of ways. Also, we have a website, which I would like to start putting some things on. Maybe I'll start uploading the podcast to that. But that's just realtakes.com. It was a domain that I changed over from my previous website called Screenloop. That is no longer, so it's realtakes.com. I'm hoping to get some written reviews put up there and things like that. So definitely go ahead and check that out if you want to check out any of my personal older reviews when it comes to that. So,
all right,
Max, why don't you you want to start or you want me to start?
I can start just with the caveat that there are a number of Mark Wahlberg movies I've not seen. So my list is purely based off of what I've seen, and it's kind of a loose list. I'm not as big of a Mark Wahlberg guy as like DiCaprio, so I didn't put a ton of effort into this. But this is kind of just off the cuff what I thought is his best. You
didn't see the movie that Wahlberg and DiCaprio were in together?
I did see that.
The Basketball Diaries?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's a weird movie.
It is. They're also in another movie together, but we'll get to that. This list is it's a mix of performances versus how I like the overall movie. But So my number.
I kind of went.
Oh, go ahead.
And real quick, I kind of went on how much I enjoyed the film, and performance is I basically just rated his films in the way that I like them. So go ahead, Max. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So my number 5 Mark Wahlberg movie is The Other Guys.
Okay.
Mark Wahlberg.
That is not on my list.
Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell. I just think they play really well together. The movie's funny. Wahlberg's personable. He's good in it. I mean, he shot Derek Jeter. It's I think it's an enjoyable movie. I think it's one of those that you can just watch and just zone out, and it's just a nice little buddy cop movie.
Yeah, it's got some quotable lines for sure. The Dirty Mike and the Boys and all that all that stuff is great. And the Desk Pop, that's one of my favorites.
Thanks for the F Shack. Yeah, that's a pretty classic line. Yeah, Desk Pop.
There's some pretty great lines in that movie. No, it's funny. I have it. I actually own it on Blu-ray, and I just don't go back and visit it as much. And it's not, I don't think it's his best comedy even. So, but that's just me.
It's easy to overlook, and I realize this is a Wahlberg list, but it's hard to overstate how funny Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock are in the beginning of this movie as the kind of the hero cops, and then they jump off the building and like, do you think those guys really thought they were going to survive that? Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's a great movie. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right, what do you got?
So yeah, like Max said, and like I said, I kind of went by movies that I really enjoy. In that order, and performance had something to do with it, more so towards the top of my list. But my number 5 is Deepwater Horizon.
Well, let's hold off on that for a little while.
Okay. What's your number 4 then?
My number 4 is Invincible.
Okay, I struggled. I didn't put it on.
You didn't put Invincible on there?
No.
Oh
nope.
Man, Invincible.
I don't have Invincible. I love the movie.
I liked Invincible, and this is probably a situation where there's a couple Mark Wahlberg movies that probably could have snuck in there, but I haven't seen it yet. Story of Vince Papale, he's this bartender. He ends up making the Eagles. I think he played for 3 years or something for the Philadelphia Eagles, and just kind of an enjoyable story. I think it's, again, like The Other Guy, something you can just pop on and just watch. Just kind of a good story. Everybody's cheering for him, and Elizabeth Banks is in there as well, and Greg Kinnear. So, just an enjoyable movie.
I agree. It's one that I've gone back to quite a bit. If it's on cable, I'll sit down and watch it for sure. It's a good Mark Wahlberg performance too. Kind of an understated one. He's not real, he's not real flighty or emotional like he is in a lot of it. There's a couple moments in the film where he's real emotional, but there's nothing really over the top or anything about it. And that's kind of why I like it. For me, it's just a little bit too formulaic to put on my personal list of ones that I enjoy. There's other films that I enjoy more of his.
Sure.
So it's kind of one of the reasons why I left it off. I do really enjoy the film though. I'm a big fan of it. So, my number 4 then is Ted.
All right, that's my number 3, so we can talk about it.
Okay, this movie is so funny. I almost put them together because I do like a lot. I do like large portions of the second one, but the first Ted is just so funny, and we're both big fans of Family Guy and Seth MacFarlane and his humor. It's just great. This is another, to me, this is a little bit more quotable than like the other guys.
Yeah, I agree.
He's the bear and everything that he does, and it's a character that you actually, of Wahlberg's, that you actually are sympathetic with because you want this guy to succeed and he just keeps fucking up. And ultimately, it's just a really fun buddy comedy. It's with some great moments and some great heart in it too. I mean, even before the scene where they fight in the hotel room is very funny, but before that, there's some nice moments of heart with him and a fucking bear. So I mean, it's incredible the emotion that the two guys pull out of this film. While also it being one of the funniest movies of probably this decade, I would even say.
I thought Ted was hilarious. It was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yep.
For Best Original
The year that
Song.
he hosted, actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah, it's a great movie. What's his name? Giovanni Ribisi is also
good. He's great. Giovanni Ribisi is great
as the villain. Movie. But yeah, like you said, it's just a funny story. Ted's funny as shit. It's just, you can just laugh the whole time, and you got Mila Kunis in it. I
got you a rake. It's a birthday rake.
It's just there's just so much, and Wahlberg just compliments Seth MacFarlane's Ted so much. This movie is one that exceeded expectations with a $50 million budget, made $550 million. So.
Yeah. It was a very successful film, and the second one was successful too. Although I think a lot of people didn't like the second one as much as I love the second one, so I'm in the minority.
I mean, you got Flash Gordon in there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You know,
the Duck's name is James Franco in this, which I love. I think that's so funny. And that guy, it's just the movie is just great. So Ted is my number 4. That was your number 3.
Yes. Yeah.
So my number 3 is The Departed.
Our lists are really screwed up here. All right,
Where do you have The Departed?
I do.
Where do you have it?
Number 1.
Okay, we can wait and talk about that then. So what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Deepwater Horizon. Okay. And I'll tell you why.
And that was my number 5.
I'll tell you why. The reason I had Deepwater Horizon so far up there is because in so many of Wahlberg's performances, to me, he's just pandering's not the right word, but Riley kind of touched on it. He's just like overly emotional and, you know, always like heavy breathing and that kind of stuff. You know what movie I just realized I left off here?
What's that?
Shooter.
Yeah, well, that's not on my list either.
That's a good Wahlberg movie, though. Okay, anyway, So Deepwater Horizon, John Malkovich is in it, but to me, that movie told the story of the Deepwater Horizon disaster without sensationalizing it too much. Because a lot of the Wahlberg movies, it's sensationalized, it's pandering, rah, 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 but I thought this one was a lot grittier. His performance was good, and the overall movie was a true to real life telling of the story. I think that you know, you kind of see the executives. I mean, they really fucked up, you know, and it really was their fault. And you just see that guys like Wahlberg's character and all those guys trying to do the best they can to save everybody. And amazingly, no one died in that disaster. You know, millions. I believe it was millions of tons or gallons of oil got pumped into the Gulf of Mexico there. But that was. I just thought it was overall a very grounded performance from Wahlberg and not the typical emotional, over the top, campy type performance.
Yeah, this movie, I remember, because I think we actually went and saw this together.
I think we did, yeah.
It came out, and I remember the beginning of this film. I was not bored, but I was just like, you know, here we go again. Like, Wahlberg's the family guy. You know, he's, you know, whatever. He's dating. His wife is played by Kate Hudson in this, right? I think so. I've only seen it the one time. I own it, and I've been meaning to try to get back to it again because I remember enjoying it quite a bit. And then as it goes on, it really just kind of, my thing was it delivers a lot of great thrills in a very, very breakneck pace where you don't feel like you're in the theater very long, and it's just it moves along so quickly, and it's thrilling. Like some of the stuff, like, you know, it gets your heartbeat racing. I was on the edge of my seat with this movie, which is kind of what I wanted. But you're right, it's not shallow, right? It doesn't just exploit that moment for big action set pieces and you know, overly heroic storytelling and sort of fetishizing the spirit of the American hero, which is what some of these movies that Wahlberg and even Berg has done to this day. You know, you talk about things that we'll probably bring up on our honorable mentions. They're good movies, but they just don't reach those emotional heights. So for me, this had that emotional impact of, you know, you feel for these guys because the reason they're in this situation is because of characters like John Malkovich, where they're greedy and the corporate greed puts them in this situation, and then they sort of have to band together to get out of it. And I just like the way that Peter Berg sort of unveils this movie without really exploiting any, like you said, without really exploiting anybody or anything, because he doesn't really make he doesn't make people like John Malkovich the mustache twirling villain. He doesn't make
real life
overly
people
heroic. Yeah, it feels real. It feels lived in, and you really get a sense of those characters and the way and their motivations. So that's why I enjoy it. I think it's one of his most mature. Berg and Wahlberg. I think it's probably their most mature. And you're right, gritty is a perfect way to describe this film. The action is great in it,
and the cast has really aged well. Yeah. I mean, this is a star-studded cast. You got Mark Wahlberg, Kurt Russell, John Malkovich, Gina Rodriguez, Dylan O'Brien, Kate Hudson. Ethan Suplee, Trace Adkins, Brad Leland, and Ethan Suplee. I just finally figured out what that dude's name was. He's in a whole ton of movies. You know,
Yep.
Remember the Titans, Wolf of
Ethan
Wall
Suplee
Street.
works a lot.
Dude's a jack of all trades. I did not know his name. He's one of those dudes, like, you know who he is, you just don't know who he is. You know?
And Dylan O'Brien is good in this movie, and this is a kid. I shouldn't say kid, he's probably our age. This is a guy that's going to be a star, I think. I think he just has to find that right project. You know, he's been in those Maze Runner movies, which the new one was fine. And he was in that movie with Michael Keaton, American Assassin, and he's good in that movie, and that movie's enjoyable. I think that dude just needs to find the right thing that's going to make him pop, and he's going to be a star because he has the makings of it. He's not just a pretty boy actor. He's got some depth to what he does, and he really shows that off in Deepwater Horizon. So, one of the other enjoyable things about this movie is that performance. So,
absolutely, yeah. So that's why I had it number 2, just a good Korean movie.
My number 2 is one you must not have seen, which shocks me because it is a fantastic movie, not just performance from Mark Wahlberg. My number 2 is The Fighter.
You know, I have not seen that. I heard good things. I've just never seen it.
This movie is great, Max. It is so good. Christian Bale with the Oscar-winning performance in this film. He's absolutely outstanding. This is where I kind of went away from, like, you know, this isn't Mark Wahlberg's movie per se. He shares it with Christian Bale. And, of course, Melissa Leo to some extent as well. But The Fighter, a great David O. Russell movie. And it's just so good. Like, I don't want to spoil anything because, I mean, it's a true story, so you could easily go look up what happens in the film and kind of the progression. But it's one of Wahlberg's best arcs. We'll get to his best arc in just a minute, I think. But it's one of his best arcs as a character, and I just love the family drama at stake here. And to me, you can't go wrong with a boxing film. I love boxing films. I've never seen a bad boxing film. Even the ones that don't get, you know, most things right, they're still enjoyable to watch, in my opinion. And to me, this film is just so great because it not only does it take the drama of boxing, it really unloads some weighty, really well done family themes throughout this with you know, Christian Bale playing Dickie Ward, who was I don't know if his last name is Ward or not, but they're brothers, half brothers maybe or something like that. I have to go rewatch the film. But Mark Wahlberg plays Mickey Ward, who's a boxer, and his brother Dickie used to be a great boxer.
Mickey and Dickie.
And then he kind of fell into drugs and all these kind of things, and they're from Massachusetts. And then throughout the film, just the progression of those two characters is something really, truly special to watch. So, like I said, Bale wins an Oscar for this movie. Melissa Leo is great in this. Amy Adams is fantastic in it as well. Has a great cast, and it's just a movie that I was floored with when I first saw it. I just really enjoy it, and I think people, if you haven't seen The Fighter, definitely check it out. It used to be on Netflix. I don't think it is anymore, but if you can find The Fighter, definitely watch it because it is not only one of Mark Wahlberg's best performances, but it is overall just a fantastic film.
Absolutely, completely agree.
So let's before we get into, we know your number 1. We don't know my number 1 yet, although I think I feel like you know where I'm going. My honorable mentions, we talked a little bit about some of the fetishizing, whatever, but I still think Lone Survivor is a great film. It's one that I've watched a couple times and I really enjoy. I enjoyed it more the second time. A couple other honorable mentions I had was Two Guns.
Two Guns was a good movie.
Two Guns is really fun. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it's very charming. Marky Mark's great in that. We talked about Shooter, and then the only other honorable mention I had was Patriots Day, which is a film I do enjoy quite a bit. So. But I think Deepwater Horizon is just a better film because Patriots Day was knocking on the door for me. So, but I ended up going with Deepwater Horizon. But what are your honorable mentions, Max?
I think for honorable mentions, I would definitely throw in there Boogie Nights, The Italian Job.
I forgot he was in The Italian Job.
It's not a bad movie.
No, it's not. I wouldn't have put it on my list had I remembered, but it's a good film. Yeah.
And then probably Three Kings.
Three Kings is great. That's another great David O. Russell movie.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about your number 1 then. Your number 1 is The Departed.
The Departed. Yeah, yes, and I realize overall it's more of a DiCaprio, Matt Damon
sure
movie, but Wahlberg was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I thought he was really good in this movie. Overall, it's one of my favorite movies. Jack Nicholson is obviously fantastic. Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Mark Wahlberg. Just overall, it's just such a suspenseful movie. I had no idea the plot twist that was going to happen at the end. It's just overall a fantastic movie. I mean, most people have seen it, so I don't really think you need to describe it too much. But
yeah, Martin Scorsese is one of my, if not my favorite director of all time. I've seen almost every single one of his films, including the older stuff, obviously, that isn't necessarily readily available. Shout out to Filmstruck for being able to watch Who's Not Knocking on My Door, which is a great film. But The Departed is one of these movies that it's a shame that it took so long for Scorsese to win his Oscar, because he wins his Oscar for The Departed, and it's a really great film. It's a remake of a I believe a Chinese film, or is it Japanese? It's an Asian film called Infernal Affairs. It's a remake of this, and it's a film that Scorsese was a big fan of. And The Departed, to me, it was my number 3, only because I just in the canon of Martin Scorsese films, I don't think it's his best. It's certainly probably top 10. But you're right. It's a really, really great story, really, really great performances, and it is a little bit more of Wahlberg is a little bit more of a side character in this movie, but he's in the film, and he's in the film enough so that you can say, and he's got such some great quotable lines in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's got
the one where he's talking about his theory on feds is they're like mushrooms. You keep them in the dark and feed them shit. I love that line, and then he has that other great line too, and I just can't think of exactly what it is.
Well, and he's got the penultimate scene. He's got the final scene that closes out the movie. That is, that's epic.
Yeah,
it's what everyone wants.
His final moment with Matt Damon really brings that movie full circle, and you can see it. And Wahlberg does some great acting here with his eyes. He doesn't have to say anything. Matt Damon knows. Fuck it. We're gonna spoil it. This movie is 12 years old. If you haven't seen The Departed, oh well, you should have seen it.
Right.
He fucking kills Matt Damon in the final scene of this film, or one of the final scenes of this film, and the emotion that plays out in this scene is like Matt Damon comes in and he's kind of just like, I know, like I get it, like I know why you're here, and because Damon is obviously the rat that they're searching for the whole time, and then DiCaprio gets killed in the crossfire essentially, after finding out that Damon, and then Anthony Anderson is in on it, and Wahlberg kind of. And I feel like too in that moment it's Wahlberg saying, we should have done more to maybe protect our asset, in which they had DiCaprio as an asset. And him and DiCaprio have some great moments together in the film as well. The scene under the bridge where he's out there with Martin Sheen and they're talking about, DiCaprio wants out because he doesn't want to die, and ultimately he ends up dying. And then, so there's just a lot of great complicated storytelling in this movie that lends itself so well to repeat viewings. I've watched it probably 10 times. It's just a phenomenal film.
Well, I think you get
it's worthy of your number 1 spot for sure.
Well, I think you get to the end and there's there's kind of a feeling of hopelessness, because DiCaprio gets capped, and you're like, well, fuck. That was my favorite character.
He's the last good guy.
Yeah, he's the last good guy. Everybody's going to get away with it. And then, they're at the funeral, and Matt Damon's character's wife is, crying. And you obviously know that she had an affair with Billy Costigan. And then final scene, Dignam shows up, shoots him, and then you got the rat running along the ledge, which is symbolic of the gangster films of the 30s and 40s and stuff. And
it's the rat is such an incredible metaphor that Scorsese just kind of just plops in, just says, here you go. It's a little on the nose, but it's perfect for the film. And of course it has the great moments where Martin Scorsese uses foreshadowing really well in this film, with the X's marking characters for death essentially, and you that's the kind of stuff you catch on third, fourth viewing. So there's a lot of really great stuff in this film, and it definitely is worthy of your number 1 for sure.
I did not realize that James Badge Dale was in this movie.
Yes, he is.
He was very good in Only the Brave as Jesse Steed. Side note.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He's got something coming out that saw like a trailer for, or maybe a poster or something. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it's a TV show.
Got a couple Little Woods, Hold the Dark, Donnybrook, Into the Ashes.
Hold the Dark. That's what it is. Yes. Hold the Dark. We'll get to Hold the Dark a little bit later because I want to talk something about that movie. We gotta get going here.
Yes. All right. What is your number one pick?
My number one is Boogie Nights.
Okay. All right.
Boogie Nights is so good. Paul Thomas Anderson directed this film. And the research that he went into to make this film alone is enough. But the performance by Mark Wahlberg, which is insane because it's like one of his first films, if not his first film, I don't know for sure. But it's at least his first leading role. And he is so good in this movie. And the exemplified by... You watch this movie in retrospect, right? Because this came out in 1997. I was 6 years old. I wasn't watching this movie back in 1997. It's about the porn industry, and Mark Wahlberg plays Dirk Diggler / Eddie Adams. Eddie Adams is his real name, but Dirk Diggler is his porn name. And just the way I love Paul Thomas Anderson. There Will Be Blood. Phantom Thread last year I thought was one of the best films of 2017. Yep. And just the way that... that PTA directs this film with Mark Wahlberg, and there's no judgment passed. This is just a story of a guy who just happens to be in the porn industry, but this could be a tale about anybody trying to make it big. And what's telling is the great scene at the beginning of this film. Have you seen Boogie Nights, Max?
I've seen bits and pieces. I still got to watch the whole thing all the way through.
There's this great moment at the beginning of the film with Marky Mark and his mother, who I can't remember the actress who plays his mother in the film, but she's calling him stupid, and he is stupid. Like, he's a dumb dude. Like, he's not like a brilliant guy. And she's calling him stupid, and he's never gonna be anything, and he's screaming, and he's like, I'm gonna be something. I'm gonna be big, and you just wait and see. And it's just the way that the dialogue is delivered and the way Wahlberg plays out the scene. It's just so brilliant, and it's such a good film, and more people should see it. It's on Netflix right now, actually. I almost rewatched it the other night, but I ended up watching something else. So, yeah, man, if you guys haven't seen Boogie Nights, check out Boogie Nights. It's great. It has one of the best casts probably of all time, at least of the last 20, 30 years. You've got Philip Seymour, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, Luis Guzman is in this film, Heather Graham, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds at his best. He's so good in Boogie Nights. I love Burt Reynolds. Obviously Mark Wahlberg, and then various other characters. Michael Penn, Sean Penn's brother, who scored a lot of Sean Penn's movies. I think he scored them. I might be getting that wrong. Apologies if I am, but yeah, it's just got a really, really great cast. And yeah, man, I would love to. Boogie Nights is one of those movies I could sit down and just really just want to like dissect. And talk about it. It's just good. It's so good. That's really all I can say about Boogie Nights is just go watch it. It's fantastic.
I'm hoping to see it soon, but the parts I've seen have been funny, and like you said, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there.
Well, that's what's great about it. The movie is like it's funny, but then it also can go to these really dark places, and these characters. Maybe they do something you don't agree with for a living, but you're able to sympathize with the characters, and that's what's so good about the film. Right. And it's a story really about people finding their families, which is a interesting dynamic to bring to a movie about porn. So, all right. Anything else you want to bring up on Mark Wahlberg or coming soon or anything like that?
No, I don't think I'm Mark Wahlberg. I think you said you wanted to talk about Hold the Dark a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll get to Hold the Dark actually here pretty recently. So last week we talked about movies that were coming out for the rest of August that we were interested in, and there wasn't much. But then you get into the final quarter of the year, and that's where we get into some of these good films, the Oscar films, and good blockbusters that maybe some of us have been waiting for. Others are hot and cold on. I think Max knows where I'm going with that, but we'll get to that. We're gonna go through as in depth and as quick as possible as to some of these movies coming out. So Max, let's get into it right away. So starting with September 7th, we're going to go September through December. Starting with September 7th, not much. The first week in September is usually just kind of a dumping ground. Except for last year, you saw It come out in that time span. So The Nun is a horror film in the Conjuring franchise that is looking to maybe capitalize on that box office success that It had last year. And Peppermint, which is a film with Jennifer Garner. Either of those two on your radar, Max? Yeah, I'm kind of with you. The trailer for Peppermint looks okay. I feel like it could be a surprise, but you never know. Nothing coming out in limited release that weekend, so just the Peppermint and the Nun. And then we move on to September 14th, where nationwide we have The Predator, the Shane Black movie The Predator coming out. A Simple Favor, it's a Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively film, which I just found out about last night because I just saw a poster for it. And a movie I'm looking forward to, and that's White Boy Rick. We can talk more about that in a second. One that I didn't know was coming out is, for more or less, a faith-based film, but it's sort of billing itself as a sequel to Angelina Jolie's 2014 film Unbroken. It's called Unbroken: Path to Redemption. So it's kind of the continuing story of what's the guy's name? Louis Zamperini or whatever his name is.
Oh yeah.
Max, any of these films on your radar? Predator, Unbroken, Simple Favor, White Boy Rick.
I think Predator could be interesting. That's kind of a reboot of that whole franchise, isn't it?
I think they're billing it as a sequel. I've seen the first Predator movie a long time ago. I haven't seen the other ones, but yeah, I think they're billing it as a sequel. It's got a good cast: Keegan-Michael Key, Sterling K. Brown,
Olivia Munn.
Boyd Holbrook is in this film, who's great in Logan last year. And I know he's great in Narcos. I haven't seen that show, but a lot of people praise him in that show. The one that's big with me, sorry Max, is White Boy Rick.
That's what I was just gonna say. I think White Boy Rick looks really.
Yeah, man, this movie looks great. It's got I can't think of the kid's name right now. I know he's been in some stuff, but it's about a young kid who plays a drug dealer, a young drug kingpin at like 16, and I don't know is Matthew McConaughey his dad or like what?
No, I think Matthew McConaughey is the main character, isn't he? Isn't he
okay.
White Boy Rick?
No. The kid is White Boy.
Oh, that's
Rick.
right.
I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know who Matthew McConaughey is, but this movie was supposed to be in August, and then they pushed it back to September.
Richard Wersch Sr.
Okay, so he might be. Yeah, he must be the kid's dad.
Yeah, Bruce Dern. You got Bruce Dern in this.
Yeah, it's got a tremendous cast.
Yeah.
And it's directed by... do you have it up?
Yeah.
Who directed it?
It is directed by Jan de Mange.
Okay. And if I remember correctly... He did...
Jan
de
Mange is known for Top Boy. It's not a very well-known director at all.
I thought he directed that Jack O'Connell movie.
It's 71.
71. Yep, that's what I'm thinking of. 71. Looking forward to White Boy Rick. So and The Predator, we'll see. I haven't been blown away by the stuff I've seen out of The Predator so far.
Could be good.
So let's move on to September 21st, which has two wide releases. The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which is a kids film or a family film, I guess I should say.
I think that could
Jack
be
Black,
good.
Kate Blanchett. Yeah, it could be okay. It looks interesting.
Jack Black is
another wide release.
Jack Black is.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Jack Black. You know, we know who Jack Black is, but I mean, he was not bad in Goosebumps or whatever that one movie is. You know, he could be good in those types of movies. And Kate Blanchett is obviously frightening whatever she does. So.
Yeah, I talked about it last week, but he's great, and don't worry, he won't get far on foot. So you still haven't seen that, check that out. The other wide release that weekend, or according to the site I was on, a wide release, which I find this interesting because this seems more like a limited release, The Sisters Brothers.
So Jake Gyllenhaal, just going to bring that up as well.
And Joaquin Phoenix. This movie looks great. The trailer looks incredible.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, that right there, I mean, that's... Yeah. I mean, hey, you got Creed Bratton playing quarrelsome saloon guy in Town Number 2, so... I mean,
okay. I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Creed Bratton is?
No.
You've never seen The Office?
No, I don't. The show does not.
Wow.
I'm not. Who's the actor?
Creed Bratton.
Oh, that's the actor's name. I thought it was the character.
No, he plays himself. He plays Creed Bratton in The Office. In this particular movie, he plays quarrelsome saloon guy, Town Number 2. So, you know.
Okay. Yeah, man, The Office isn't my thing. It's too dry humor. I'm not a big fan of the humor that's in that show.
God.
But, The Sisters Brothers could be something really great. And I'm looking for it. It looks quirky. It looks cool.
Gyllenhaal's got that tweedly little mustache.
Yep. John C. Reilly, Riz Ahmed are also in this film.
Yeah.
And it's directed by, I'm probably going to blow this name, Jacques Audiard. Audiard? He's directed a couple of... foreign films, Rust and Bone, which got some love from the Oscars. He directed the very critically acclaimed 2015 film Deepan. So This is, I think, probably his first American film, if I'm not mistaken. So I love watching these foreign filmmakers make their American debuts because more often than not, they're great films. So that's what's coming out wide. And then in limited release that weekend, you have Michael Moore's documentary coming out, Fahrenheit 11/9, Colette, which stars Keira Knightley, Assassination Nation, which is a film that premiered at Sundance to mixed reviews, and then Life Itself is a film that I don't know much about. There's trailers out, there's a poster, I can't remember who's in it, but those are the limited releases. And keep in mind, too, as we talk about these limited releases, these are films that aren't probably going to be, unless you live in New York or LA or maybe Boston, Chicago, some of the bigger cities in the US or around the world, you're likely not going to get these movies on like September 21st. Limited usually means about 4 screens in New York and LA total. So these movies are movies that will expand out to your area within the coming weeks is usually how they rock limited releases. Oh, sorry. Did you have something to say?
No, I was going to say I can kick off the next week with what movie I don't want to see.
Yeah, what's that?
September 28th, you've got another stupid Kevin Hart movie coming out, Night School.
I'm going to go see it.
A group of troublemakers are forced to attend night school and hope that they'll pass the GED exam to finish high school. I bet shenanigans ensue.
I'm going to go see it because Tiffany Haddish is so funny in Girls Trip, which was an underrated comedy. A huge surprise to me. I don't know if you've seen Girls Trip, Max, but it is so fucking funny, and Tiffany Haddish is so great in that movie.
Well, Kevin Hart's funny too, just not when he's acting.
I'm going to give Tiffany Haddish the benefit of the doubt on this, and that I would be excited to go see it. The one I'm not looking forward to, because I thought the trailer looked awful, was Little Women. Little Women is, of course, the great Jane Austen novel, but this is set in modern day. No thanks. I don't need this movie.
Well, instead of that, you can go see The Old Man and the Gun.
Okay, we'll save that for later because I have that on a different date. I have that on a more updated date.
It comes out on the 28th, it says.
It does not. I went on the movie's website. Well, like I said, we'll get to that. Otherwise, nationwide on September 28th is Smallfoot, an animated film, as well as Hellfest, a horror movie, I assume. And then in limited release is the one that I wanted to talk about, which is Hold the Dark. Hold the Dark comes out in limited release on September 28th. Jeremy Saulnier directs this, and I got to tell you guys, if you haven't seen Blue Ruin or Green Room, you need to do yourselves a favor and see these films. Blue Ruin in particular is fantastic. Green Room's a great horror film, and I'm looking forward to this movie because it's got Jeffrey Wright in it, who's great in Westworld. And he's great as one of the films I think people don't talk about when it comes to Jeffrey Wright. Casino Royale. Terrific in Casino Royale.
Jeffrey Wright is a fantastic actor.
He's a great actor. So October now we get into some of the better films.
Hold on now.
What do you got for September still?
I think you're missing a dark horse at the end of September there.
What's that?
That could be very good, I think, of Monsters and Men.
What?
Monsters and Men.
I have never heard of it.
It looks very good. Aftermath of a police killing of a black man told through the eyes of the bystander who filmed the act, African-American police officer and a high school baseball phenom inspired to take a stand. It looks pretty good. It's already won some awards. At Sundance, it was the winner of the Special Jury Prize and was also nominated for the Grand Jury Prize for Outstanding First Feature for the director Ronaldo Marcus Green, and was also nominated for the People's Choice Award at Toronto International Film Festival. So it's getting some clout already.
So it premiered at Toronto last year.
Just says in theaters September 28th.
Well, I mean, it's very possible that it premiered last year at Toronto. Toronto has not happened yet. That's coming up. But yeah, so all right, can we move on to October now?
I suppose we can move
on. So opening on October 5th nationwide, you have Venom and A Star Is Born, which is a movie I'm looking forward to. And then in limited release that weekend, Max, you have The Old Man and the Gun, which could be Robert Redford's final film performance. Unless he's got something else on the docket. But any of those 3 films jump out to you?
I'm excited for A Star Is Born. I'm excited for Venom. I think those 2 both look very good. I think one as well that could be good is and maybe I'm going off outdated information here, but The Happy Prince.
Never heard of it. Where are you looking right now? I feel like you're the king of finding these random movies that nobody knows about.
I'm just looking at IMDb. This is the Untold Last Days of Oscar Wilde. This one stars Rupert Everett, Colin Firth, Emily Watson.
Okay.
It looks like a very good film. It has also won some awards at the Bavarian Film Awards, Berlin, and German. So I'm not sure if it's a foreign film or how that works, but it looks very good. But
I'll take your word
about
for it.
Oscar Wilde.
Okay. And I was just looking. Robert Redford does not have any other films listed after The Old Man and the Gun, and he has since announced that he's retiring from acting. So that's even more reason to go see The Old Man and the Gun for me. Is Robert Redford's a great actor. Obviously Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, The Sting. He's been in some great films.
He's like a less douchey version of Clint Eastwood.
Pretty much. And then Venom. Venom looks fine. We'll see.
I think Tom Hardy is going to make it good.
Yeah.
And this is not following the cinematic universe, correct?
No, it's a Sony film,
which is kind of weird, I think. But
there's rumors that I think Tom Holland's going to pop up, but I don't know why. They don't need to make it unnecessarily complicated.
Right.
That's my opinion. And then, real quick, I just wanted to mention that A Star Is Born is premiering at the Toronto Film Festival, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what the reviews look like out of Toronto, because the movie looks great. It's Bradley Cooper's directorial debut, so yeah. Moving on to October 12th, then. In nationwide release, you have First Man, which is the new film from Damien Chazelle we talked a little bit about last week. Obviously, the director of La La Land and Whiplash. And he also has a film I'm looking forward to watching on Filmstruck, which I believe was his first film, called Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench. Just wanted to give that little movie a shout out because I want to watch it. But First Man, and then you have the Goosebumps sequel, Goosebumps Haunted Halloween. And then the only other nationwide release that weekend is Bad Times at the El Royale. And then in limited release that weekend, you have Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Kindergarten Teacher, which was a Sundance film. What They Had, starring Hilary Swank, and then a movie that I'm excited for because the trailer is devastating, and that's Beautiful Boy. So that opens in limited release. I'll start with Beautiful Boy, Max, because this is a trailer that is just harrowingly devastating. It's brilliant. Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell. It's based on a true story about off memoirs of two men. Timothée Chalamet plays a kid on a drug addiction, and his dad, and he goes missing, and his dad tries to find him, and it's looks like this really powerful, emotional story, and looks like Oscars all around for me. So I'm really looking forward to Beautiful Boy, but also First Man. Damien Chazelle's a filmmaker that I love. Whiplash was my favorite film of 2014. So, any of these that jump out to you, Max?
Yeah, I think First Man looks good. Definitely have to check out A Beautiful Boy, but Bad Times at the El Royale kind of grabbed my attention with Hemsworth, Offerman, John Hamm, Dakota Johnson. I think that's got a pretty star-studded cast. I think there's definitely some potential. Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, man, it could be a big surprise. I think it could come out and be a good film that a lot of people go and check out. Hemsworth has been drawing a little bit more lately, and then John Hamm. It's got, like you said, it's got a great cast. It's got a cast that's marketable.
Yeah, absolutely.
These other limited release films, I've heard good things about The Kindergarten Teacher. What They Had, I've also heard good things about. So I'm looking forward to those as they expand in the weeks to come. October 19th, as we try to wrap this up, October 19th, we have Halloween opening in limited release. Serenity, which I want to talk about in a second. The Hate You Give, which is a teen thriller. And then in limited release that weekend is a couple of movies I'm excited for. Can You Ever Forgive Me is one of them, which is something that I hope Melissa McCarthy is good in, because I'd love to see her jumping out of these screwball comedies to do stuff like this.
Right.
Wildlife, which is actor Paul Dano's directorial debut, and another actor's directorial debut, Jonah Hill, mid-90s, the film he's got coming out.
Is that his directorial debut there? It is
Jonah Hill's directorial debut, and it looks terrific. The trailer looks great, and I love A24 films. So I want to talk about Serenity. because I've seen this trailer pop up a couple of times. It's with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway.
Yep.
I don't know what this movie's about. The trailer is so secretive, which is okay. I don't need to be spoon-fed the plot of the film in the trailer, but it intrigues me, man, because it looks good, but I don't know what it's about, and that kind of bugs me. I don't know why. But have you seen the trailer for Serenity, Max?
I don't know that I have.
Yeah, it's bizarre, man. It's an interesting trailer, but it's very weird. So, otherwise, any of those other films standing out for you?
You know, I don't think The Hate You Give is going to be a good movie. I think that I just feel like it's going to be pandering. Is my gut. Halloween, don't care. Like you said, Serenity, it's got a strong cast, but I don't know. That weekend's kind of weak for me. Mid-90s would probably pique my interest. The most, although I really don't know anything about this, but just looking at the description, what they had. Hilary Swank, Michael Shannon, Blythe Danner, Robert Forster. You know, that could be a dark horse that might sneak in there.
Yeah, for sure. Halloween, I am a little bit excited for because I love the original John Carpenter Halloween film, and I'm not a big horror guy though. But I love Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is back for this one. I thought Zac Efron was in this. Maybe not. Maybe I read wrong. But yeah, so that's the 19th, and then finally, one of the before we get into October 26th, real quick, I just wanted to mention this is a bizarre October, because usually you see a little bit more horror stuff coming out in October, and you have Goosebumps, which is family,
right?
And you have Halloween, but on October 26th, which is right around Halloween, obviously you have Hunter Killer, which stars Gerard Butler. You have Indivisible, which I don't know what that is. I think it's a faith-based film, maybe. And then Johnny English Strikes Again. So very bizarre final week of October. No movies coming out in limited release. I would imagine you'll see on this day. You'll see things like Beautiful Boy, or The Kindergarten Teacher, or like you said, What They Had, Old Man and the Gun. I think this is the weekend you'll see some of those movies trickle out into wide release, because it just seems to me like this weekend is really weak. I don't care. I didn't even know there was another Johnny English movie.
Well, I think
so. I don't care about that.
Yeah, but you know what? Rowan Atkinson is hilarious. He's such an underrated actor, comedy-wise.
Do you like the Mr. Are you a fan of the?
No, not Johnny English. But Mr. Bean is hilarious.
Yeah, I agree.
So I've got some faith in Rowan Atkinson. I think my biggest draw for that weekend is going to be Burning, and I don't think that's on a lot of people's list. It's racking up the awards already. It looks like it could be a really good movie.
What's it called?
It's called Burning. It showed up at Cannes and did really well. Won 2 of the 3 awards it was nominated for at Cannes.
It's a foreign film.
Was nominated at Munich. It might be foreign, but I mean, there's a lot of those foreign films that are also very good.
Oh yeah.
So of that weekend, I mean, I don't see anything that's American made that I don't care about. Stuck, Indivisible. It's about God. Don't care. Hunter Killer.
It looks like it's one of those war movies.
Yeah,
too.
like trying to rescue an untested American submarine captain teams with the U.S. Navy SEALs to rescue the Russian president who has been kidnapped by a rogue general. Gerard Butler's in it, so I don't give a shit.
Oh, Hunter Killer.
Yeah. Gerard Butler is just a terrible actor. He's not good at all. Why is he still...
Watch Den of Thieves.
Why is he still getting roles?
Den of Thieves.
Yeah, it doesn't rule out everything else.
I love Den of Thieves. I actually really enjoyed that movie. So let's get into November, because we're over an hour here, and I know you got to get to work, so we can try to breeze through. A lot of garbage, except for one film. 2 films, I guess I should say, opening on November 2nd. You have Nutcracker in the Four Realms. Don't care. A Private War. Not sure what that is. Suspiria, which I'm curious about because it's a Luca Guadagnino movie who directed Call Me By Your Name last year, which is a good film. Mm-hmm. And it's a remake. Nobody's Fool. And then the one I think that's the weekend is Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously.
Oh, of course, yes.
Very much looking forward to that film. And then in limited release is one of the more, like the trailer for Beautiful Boy, the trailer for Boy Erased is fantastic.
I think that's going to be
a really amazing
good
trailer. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Max, but it is very powerful, and it looks like it's got a great cast. Lucas Hedges from Manchester by the Sea, which was my favorite film of 2016, and he's great in it. Nicole Kidman, Russell Crowe, Joel Edgerton. It's written and directed by Joel Edgerton.
Yep.
It's about a young boy who goes through a gender. I'm sorry, not gender. A
gay conversion.
Gay conversion camp. So his parents are very religious, and I love Nicole Kidman, love Russell Crowe. Good to see him back in a film again. And of course, Joel Edgerton, man, The Gift was his first directorial effort, and it was fantastic. So
yeah, that's going to be
Boy
good.
Erased is one I'm
definitely
really
excited for Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously.
Yeah. November 9th, you get into some of the more Christmas stuff. Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, which I think the trailer for is excellent, with Benedict Cumberbatch voicing the Grinch. I thought that I laughed my ass off when I saw the trailer for it, so I'm looking forward to that. The Girl in the Spider's Web, which is the sequel to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but this is a different director, different actress. It's Claire Foy taking over the main role. And then Overlord, which is a trailer that I was interested in. I'm not sure I'm super interested in the film itself. It looks a little it's a Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams. I don't know, I can't remember who's directing it, but it's
Julius
Avery.
Interesting.
It's a World War II zombie interesting thing, so I think it could be interesting. Limited that weekend, The Long Dumb Road with Jason Mantzoukas and Tony Revolori, the Sundance film that got mixed reviews, and then Peterloo is something I've been hearing a lot about coming out in limited release. Anything that jumps out to you real quick there, Max?
Not a whole lot. I think the front runner could have some potential, depending on how that it goes in general.
I've got that limited the next weekend and then expanding over Thanksgiving.
Well, I don't know where you're getting all this fancy fucking info here, but
I've tried to go to movie websites like directly, and then there's other areas where you can go, like Movie Insider's a good Box Office Mojo.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so we move on to November 16th, which of course has the Fantastic Beasts sequel, The Crimes of Grindelwald. You're big into this. I don't care about it. The one I care about that weekend, to me, there's three actually, I should say. The front runner you just mentioned, which is limited on that weekend. Widows, which is Steve McQueen's new movie, which has an excellent trailer as well. If you haven't seen that, it looks fantastic. The one I'm really, really pumped for, because I am such a massive Coen Brothers fan, is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This was originally supposed to be a TV miniseries. However, they're bringing it to the film festivals as a film. It's a Western.
That must be new. I don't see that anywhere.
Yep, it was just announced a couple of like a month ago that they were bringing this film to I think it's Toronto. They're bringing it to one of the fall film festivals. So really, really looking forward to that. I know you're hyped up for Fantastic Beasts. Tell me why. Tell me why I should be interested in seeing this film.
I'm excited for Fantastic Beasts because it's something that J.K. Rowling has teased for a long time. Grindelwald and Dumbledore, and to me, it's less of a Fantastic Beasts movie than it is talking about Grindelwald. I think you've got a fantastic cast. Johnny Depp is Grindelwald. I can take it or leave it, but Jude Law is Dumbledore. I love Jude Law. You've got David Yates back, who is an original Harry Potter director. You've got Eddie Redmayne, Catherine Waterston, Dan Fogler. I'm just excited to see the angle they play with Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Because, in the trailer they set up that, Dumbledore can't do it, and it's got to be Newt Scamander, but we all know, anyone who's read Harry Potter knows that it is Dumbledore in the end who does vanquish Grindelwald, who J.K. Rowling...
Spoilers.
Fuck off if they haven't read the books. They've been out for like 40 years. And J.K. Rowling came out and later said that Dumbledore did have feelings for Grindelwald. Dumbledore was obviously gay, and I think it's just, I'm very interested to see how they're going to play that. I really hope it's not.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't focus completely on Newt Scamander, because he's more of a minor character in my mind. I hope they focus on Grindelwald and Dumbledore. The saving grace, I think, is that J.K. Rowling was involved in this entire process with the screenplay and everything, and she's not as stupid as George Lucas is. So
Eddie Redmayne is my problem with these movies. It's just a boring, stupid, I don't get it character. I just don't get why he's the lead. Like, you could not have chosen a less charismatic actor to lead a big franchise, in my opinion, but that's just
I think you easily could have just done Dumbledore and Grindelwald and not even...
100%. David Yates is on board to direct 5 of these. What are they going to do with this?
Well, I think the cool thing about this is that it's, again, that J.K. Rowling is involved. I think as long as she's involved, you still have the originality, and you can still have the backstory to a lot of this stuff. It's not like Star Wars where they're just like making shit up. You've actually got the person that knows everything about the universe that's continuing to develop, and that's how I'm going to see it for now. Until
George Lucas was too. He just doesn't know how to write.
Well, exactly.
Sorry. My issue with the first one, I liked the first one quite a bit. I actually had a lot more fun with it than I thought I was going to, because I kind of reluctantly went to see it. But J.K. Rowling's a fantastic writer. I hope the script for this one is a little bit better, because I just thought there were some moments with the dialogue that were...
I didn't give a shit about the American people in the first one. Yeah. Why did we need to go to America? Who cares?
One quick thing I wanted to add, separate from that, was I don't know that there's a trailer out for The Girl in the Spider's Web. Don't be surprised if that movie gets moved, if that movie gets pushed back. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't even know if they're done filming it or not. And that's true of a lot of these movies that are coming out. Don't be surprised if they get pushed. Moving forward here, November 21st nationwide, you have Robin Hood, Creed 2. I'm very excited about Creed 2. Second act, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then the, of course, expansion of The Front Runner, which is expanding into more theaters. Limited that weekend, you have Green Book, which stars Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen, which looks great. The trailer at least looked good. It's directed by Peter Farrelly, who's one of the Farrelly brothers, so I'm interested to see where that goes. And then The Favorite, Yorgos Lanthimos' new film. Coming out on Thanksgiving Day. Other than that, there wasn't much on... I'm sorry, not Thanksgiving Day. The day after Thanksgiving, my fault. 11/23. Anything there you wanted to bring up? I know Creed 2 is something that I'm excited for, but...
I love Viggo Mortensen. I love Mahershala Ali. I think Green Book is going to be my number one there. I want to check out.
Sure.
Why don't we...
I haven't seen...
No, go ahead.
I haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, so I would like to get Wreck-It Ralph in and see Ralph Breaks the Internet, because I'm a fan of the Disney stuff. So I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, since we're kind of in a rush here, why don't we hold off on December for next week? And because December is traditionally a pretty big month for movies. Why don't we hold off and we'll do kind of a more in-depth look at December, what's coming, because there's some big movies coming up.
Yep. Two other November releases that I just wanted to bring up real quick, and like Max said, we're running out of time, so December we'll make sure we touch on that for sure next week. The only nationwide release that I see for November 30th is an untitled Sony horror film starring Elizabeth Banks. And again, Max, that's probably going to be one of those dates where they start rolling out some of these limited releases, like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs or something like that. And then undated as of right now, but set for November to be announced, is Barry Jenkins' newest movie, of course, the director of Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk. I have that as which has a trailer out, which is great. The trailer is fantastic. So, we'll save December, because you're right. There are some great films, good-looking films coming out in December. One in particular I'm super excited for, from Adam McKay, but we'll get there. Anything else, Max, that you had?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I think we got it all.
Well, let's quick plug some things. You can find me on Twitter at Riley Granson. You can find Max on Twitter at Max Medlin. The show is usually up on Anchor.fm, but you can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Stitcher, among other areas. YouTube, we are also available on YouTube. You can just search Real Takes on YouTube, and you can pull us up there. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube account. We certainly appreciate that. Check out our Facebook page. That's just Facebook.com/Real Takes, as well as our website, realtakes.com. I'm hoping to post some content up there very soon. Maybe Max will get into some writing. I can convince him to do that. So, anything else you wanted to add to that, Max?
I don't think so. I think just look for an action-packed episode next week talking about December, and I'm going to make sure I go out and see a couple movies this week. Black Klansman, a couple different ones. So we'll talk about that, and we'll give ourselves a little more time.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. Again, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. Email us if you have anything you want to hear us talk about, or have questions, or just something you want to bring up about the show, constructive criticism. Go ahead and drop us an email. That's realtakesinbox@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week on Real Takes.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.